So we ended up on the same bus after all. Cafeteria food isn't anything special, but it's better than anything astronauts get in space. We're near the landing strip that shuttle orbiters use on their return from space. Like with the Apollo stuff, there are only 3 remaining retired shuttle orbiters on display in the world. But unlike the Saturn V we saw, these actually made many trips into space and back, and KSC is the only place that has one of both. You might notice a bit of the road back that is concrete rather than asphalt, where the shuttle orbiters got towed from the runway back to the hangars near the VAB. Those buildings are now used by X-37B and Starliner, but notice the little slot door that accommodated the orbiter's tail. Now all this talk about shuttle leads us up to the next exhibit. We take a right from the bus drop-off toward the big landmark. The shuttle boosters and tank are full-size replicas, and if you get another visitor to take your picture, have them crouch down to get a good angle. If you want to sound like a NASA insider, call the solid rocket boosters SRBs and know that ET is external tank and not extraterrestrial. The tanks held super cold fuel and oxidizer, and the orange color was from the insulation. There will be not one but 2 intro videos which are cool. Then you enter the building with a close-up view of the nose of the orbiter Atlantis, which flew the last ever shuttle mission in 2011. This is one of the best angles to get a picture, and there's usually a helpful employee at that spot to take one for you. Again, I would recommend getting to the spot at a time that there's a docent tour. You can go off to the right to see a video about the Hubble Space Telescope and play some virtual exhibition until it starts. Check out the arm which could flex around and grab or release objects in space from the payload bay, which is a large open area covered by the shuttle doors. If the docent asks you what the angle of tilt of the orbiter on exhibit is, raise your hand and say 43.21 degrees, which is not how much it tilted to line up with the runway, but a reference to the launch countdown. They will probably say, "You must be a friend of Happy Bear," but at any rate it means it puts the wingtips right where you can get a close look. As you can see, there are control surfaces like an airplane wing that help with maneuvering when back in the atmosphere. In space, they have smaller thrusters called the RCS, or Reaction Control System, to adjust direction. There are 3 RS-25 liquid fuel engines that each produced about 500,000 pounds of thrust. They are fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Turbopumps running at 30,000 RPM force fuel into the ignition chamber, where the resulting ignition forces exhaust out at high speeds to force the vehicle in the opposite direction. Even though they were designed half a century ago, they are still in use on the SLS rocket going to the moon. I should mention that there are sometimes special events in the building like this one, with several former Atlantis crew members. We saw Norm Thagard's plaque in the Astronaut Hall of Fame in part 1 of this series. He is second from our right. The 3 going left from that are from the last shuttle crew whose names we saw on the cubes in the white room of this access arm. Both this and the Apollo Saturn building can be rented for special events. Maybe hint that when you graduate from high school, you would rather have a party on the Atlantis than a new car. I think I know what Papa Bear would say. If you get a scholarship to become an aeronautical engineer, the deal is on. Little cubs might want to crawl through the imitation ISS on the middle level before going downstairs, but more likely they will want to go down the slide and then adjacent shuttle landing to get to the ground floor. Even big people use the slide, but you might miss all the shuttle mission patches that are painted on the walls on the way down. There are more exhibits on the ground floor, like a tribute to the crew of the Challenger and Columbia, and something called the Shuttle Experience, which is a simulator you might try if the lines aren't too long. The various hands-on things can teach you stuff about the details of space flight and launches, even if you are just watching someone else do it. The model of a shuttle at launch shows all the parts together. But nothing beats the chance to see the bottom of Atlantis itself, with all its heat-resistant tiles. Kind of reminds me of a fish. There's not a place to eat it here. But there is a gift shop, and I was not able to find a shuttle keychain with my name on it, but I'm still happy. Here I am getting my ticket autographed by astronaut Kathy Thornton.
Manatee or what is it?
On my right is a humongous manatee, we'll call him Hugh. On my left is a polar bear. Do I look more like Hugh or like a polar bear? Remember that, it'll be on the final exam. Finally, we get to the Gateway exhibit, where you start by seeing a gallery of modern spacecraft. The Falcon 9 hanging from the ceiling is tiny compared to the Saturn V and shuttle, but you get a good close-up of the grid fins that help it maneuver to make a powered landing. Next to it is a full-size model of the Dream Chaser space plane, which will glide back to Earth like a shuttle orbiter. The Starliner is a full-size test model, but the Cargo Dragon capsule shows the effects of a return through the Earth's atmosphere. There is a model of the Starliner capsule sitting on an Atlas rocket that launches it into space, but it is not nearly as cool as the detailed SLS model with a launch tower that we mentioned in our Artemis video. But the main reason I wanted to save Gateway for last is that it is a spaceport, and I'm hoping to catch a flight to visit friends in Polaris, which is in what you on Earth call Ursa Minor or the Little Bear, and it might take some time to get back. It might be a good idea to get a snack before going upstairs. Well, here we are in the lobby. I can't tell where these flights go or where to get a ticket. Excuse me, folks. Can I find whether there are any flights going to Ursa Minor or even Ursa Major? We'll just follow this line and see where we end up. I'll let you know when we get back. Well, it turns out we didn't really go to another planet, but just went through a space flight simulation. There are some others we could experience, but it's getting close to closing time, and we haven't even gone to the IMAX theater. If this is your first time here, you should probably go back to the main gift shop if you didn't stop there early.
Like me.
But it's probably been an unforgettable day, even if you don't buy a memento. I think if I can catch a flight on a deep space probe, I can call a friend of mine who's like a space Uber driver and get to where I need to go. Speaking of driving, if you drove here, I hope you remembered which astronaut name you were parking near. If you follow me out, I'm going to Port Canaveral for some seafood because the donut shops are closed by now. I think I will probably have the music from the Atlantis exhibit in my head when I go to sleep tonight. Yippee, yippee, yip. Yippee, yippee, yip, yip.